Welcome to Testimony Time again. I'm excited to have another time of testimony of two people that really love God, and God is using them mightily. I have with me Dr. Maranda Brown.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm great.
And Dr. Nichole Thompson.
Hey, Pastor.
It's so good to have you both on this Testimony Time. We're talking about a very, very exciting book that you have written, that you put together. It's called Armed and Dangerous, Dr. Maranda Brown. Now tell me, because I noticed it's unusually written, that you have some very, very powerful subjects. You put it in parts. It's differently written from most books you have here. You deal with esteem, marriage, childbearing, loss and forgiveness, and all put in parts. Tell me why are you writing a book like Armed and Dangerous, and what does that really mean?
Well, one of the things that I've seen throughout the Bible is that we follow the lives of people. And many times in reading those scriptures, we're drawn into their personalities and their stories. And so in this particular book, I modeled it after those individuals that we've so commonly come to know through our biblical readings. And as women of God, there are so many things that we have to endure in our life that create our story as the test that we go through. And so in an attempt to share that with the world, we knew that we weren't alone.
Okay.
And so we thought that we would bring freedom, healing, hope, and encouragement by being transparent.
Wow. Well, you go in your forward, you go into about what Armed and Dangerous really mean. Explain the title.
With the title, Armed and Dangerous is taken right off of the law enforcement sheet. And when you consider that particular terminology in the field of criminal justice, you know that there is an impending threat and that you have to heighten your awareness, your security level, and be prepared to respond immediately and aggressively. And so this particular title, as it relates to these testimonies that are contained within, we are armed and dangerous as a result of having endured the experiences and come out refined as pure gold.
You say something about the book where you say that when the call is made for an officer, the alarm goes out, he's armed and dangerous, so he prepares for what he's about to come upon. Now, how does that relate to the book as being prepared for something?
Well, I think that we're prepared. We're armed and dangerous as a result of the experience that we've gone through. Because one, we've come out on the other side. We still have full cognition of our mental faculties. We're physically and spiritually strong, and we are a threat to the enemy.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, now, I notice now you have different authors. How many different authors do you have in the book?
There are 8 total individuals that are featured in the book. A couple of us have multiple chapters, and we just go through sharing our life experiences, beginning in childhood with esteem issues, and then going on to marriage and infertility, loss, forgiveness, and infirmity.
Well, you know, we're one of the authors that you have is sitting right here with us, and it's Dr. Nichole. You gave me a look, so I went and found your chapter, and I started reading, and it was on a Monday. I don't like to read on Mondays, but I couldn't put it down because you drew me in to your story, and not only did you draw me, you made it so relatable to anybody that's reading. If they have any kind of experiences in this, we were pulled in, and then you gave us a solution as well. Tell me about your portion of the book.
Well, Maranda called me and she said, she sent me a text and she said, I'm going to do a book project and there are 2 chapters that you should consider. And she said, whichever one you're ready to release, because she had known my story, or you can release them both. Wow. And the Holy Spirit told me which one to release.
Well, let's talk about your chapter first.
Okay.
Tell me, I mean, it got so personal. I mean,
yes.
And to know you, to look at you, to see you, you would never, ever know
Absolutely.
that you were having anything going on at all.
Absolutely. And that was the essence of who I was. It was to hide. It was to have a facade that everything was okay. And women, we often do that. We carry ourselves in a way that we don't wear our issues, but we are often suffering internally, and we're suffering quietly, and we're suffering alone.
Wow.
Because it's shameful to talk about those issues.
Wow. Well, I'm a man. I was pulled into this.
Good.
I mean, it's like you mentioned about like so much pressure
Absolutely.
until it causes sleepless nights. I just want to just share that part. Come on, pull us in, pull this audience into what you wrote.
I wrote about a chapter that had to do with prescription drug addiction.
Okay.
And being a high achiever, being an overachiever, I thrive on excellence and I thrive on thinking of the next project and the next. And so the chapter talks about what I did to remedy, because I could not sleep.
Wow.
I could not rest. My mind was almost like a wheel that would never stop.
Wow.
And I was my worst enemy.
Wow.
And so I went through a period of trying to rest when I owned a business, because I was always afraid. What if this doesn't happen? What if this person calls and I'm not ready?
Wow.
And so I just needed to sleep 3 hours a night.
Wow.
And I could not do that. And prescriptions allowed me to do it.
Wow. Wow.
And I abused that.
Wow. And it's amazing how that you were able now to come out of that type of pressure.
Absolutely.
Also, Dr. Brown, you also have a part in here that deals with esteem, and part of that chapter is concerning chosen, surviving abandonment and rejection. Tell me about that.
Okay, in chapter 1, Chosen, I kind of articulate my childhood experience when my life took a turn that I had never imagined on a playground one afternoon, when I was told by a peer that the parents that I had knew to be my parents were in fact not my parents at all.
Wow.
And I immediately took a defensive posture, and as a result, the teacher had to report the incident to my father, and that forced him, when we got home on that evening, for them to reveal to me that I had been adopted.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And at that particular time, adoption wasn't something that was openly discussed. It was really taboo in the African American community, and I didn't understand it. So I immediately internalized what that meant, that the parents who had brought me into this world had released me to someone else, and I didn't see
Wow.
that as a gift.
Wow.
I saw that as your own parents didn't even want you.
Wow.
And so at 10 years old, I began to communicate those messages to myself, to have my own pity party, if you will. And over time, as those messages were being planted, they were being germinated in my experiences with my peers, because I felt less than, and that I would have to esteem myself to be equivalent or equal to them. And it just continued to play out even into the early adulthood portion of my life in my relationships, where I did things that were compromising to be accepted, until I realized the root of the issue all dealt with the abandonment as a child.
Wow.
And so I would seek out opportunities and cling to the rejection in those relationships until I unveiled that, this started out in your childhood, and you were in fact not rejected, but you were chosen.
Wow.
And just
Wow.
as Christ has indicated that you are chosen. And so I began to reframe those messages for myself and to cling to the beauty of the fact that you were hand selected for this family.
Wow.
And before the foundation of the earth, there was a purpose and an intent for you, that this one family brought you into the world, but this other family was going to carry you through it so that you could be who you
That's
are
great.
today.
That's great.
beautiful.
That's great. The thing that I really like about the whole book is that everybody, you and yourself, are very, very transparent, and you're sharing things that really has at some point was a struggle, broken your heart. Now in chapter 6, I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but chapter 6, you mentioned me in the book, and I didn't really realize that I was in there. Tell me about that experience.
In chapter 6, I talk about my first pregnancy with my son, KJ. And I talk about going to a routine doctor's appointment at my 37th week and being alarmed when the technician couldn't find the child's heartbeat. And ultimately, that resulted in a stillbirth, which was extremely devastating to me. And I remember many years ago, I saw you on TBN discussing the loss of your own child, and it really reverberated with me as a result of that experience.
Wow, wow. And I'm in the book. Hey, guys, now I know you got to get the book. Got to get this book. I mean, no, it touches me that because I just know that there are people who are just going through right now. I mean, people are having so many issues, and it used to be they can just come to the altar and you pray for them, but a lot of people need to be counseled and talked to. And these stories allow everyone to identify and then get healed, because sometimes we need to be talked to. I believe that's why Jesus touched so many people, because they needed something tangible, and this is something tangible. It's Armed and Dangerous, and it's going to be a powerful turnout. I just know people are going to want to buy this, but some people might not have the funds with them today and maybe want to order. How do we get a copy of this book?
Certainly. If you would like a copy of the book, and if you're not prepared to do that on today, then we are available in the iTunes store. We're available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and BookLocker.com.
And the price of the book is $20, and it is well worth it.